And without further ado, I'd like to introduce tonight's speaker. Karla Klay is the founding director of Artist Boat. She has over 30 years of experience in arts and environmental education, ecotourism, and public engagement in coastal experiences, and development of programs to teach students and members of the public about coastal and marine ecology, along with actions that result in improved environmental quality. Sorry about my dog in the background, everyone. Artist Boat was founded in 2003 to provide fun and inspiring, unique coastal experiences to people of all ages through art, science, and conservation. Since its inception, over 180,000 participants have engaged in Artist Boat's unique eco art programs on the marine ecosystems and coastal margins of the Texas coast. Over the past 18 years, over $12.8 million have been awarded through Karla's leadership to conserve 775 acres of land on West Galveston Island, forming the Coastal Heritage Preserve. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Karla. Welcome, Karla. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Andrew. Can you see me?
Yes, we see you.
Okay, great. And thank you all for your time on Tuesday night to listen to me speak. And I will go ahead and share my screen and make sure that that is visible to everyone. And I sincerely hope that if anyone sees my desktop, they're not too upset by that chaos. And then I want to make sure you can see my full slides and not the window with everybody's faces in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So are we good, Andrew, for seeing everything?
Yes.
Great. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
My name's Karla Klay, and I am the executive director of the Artist Boat. First, I want to say it's so hard not to see your faces. I am completely 100% inspired by people's smiles and eye expressions. And so this type of presentation is very challenging for me because I don't get any feedback. So I hope will all be patient with me. Artist Boat is started in 2003, and we started forming the Coastal Heritage Reserve in 2008. So mostly I'm going to focus on the Coastal Heritage Preserve and how that came to be. But I just wanted to share quickly, our mission is to promote awareness and preservation of coastal margins and the marine environment through the disciplines of the sciences and the arts. That's our 501c3 purpose. We have 5 goals that we implement through 6 programs and our Coastal Heritage Preserve. First, we want to connect people to the Gulf Coast environments through mind-opening experiences. We want to educate and inspire people to action to preserve and protect coastal and marine habitats. We desire greatly to expand our engagement in existing programs and to inform and inspire people of all ages. We are in the process of preserving and restoring 1,400 contiguous acres from beach to bay on West Galveston Island. It's a huge task. And then our long-term goal is to establish the first nationally significant environmental education center on the Gulf Coast. We are a very small nonprofit, and I don't know what to do with these little windows, but we have multiple programs. Here's just a few images of students in our eco art workshop, our Beautify the bucket barrels that line the beaches of Galveston now, that people from the community all over the region volunteer, and try to inspire people to get trash in the right place. We have Bucket Brigade tours all summer that are free to anyone to sign up and come and explore our beaches with a marine biologist. We have a lot of public art. The most public piece you can see is on the Galveston seawall. The Project SIT, the Seawall Interpretive Trail, is 70 benches beautified with interpretive art about our Gulf, our bay, Galveston Island, and the Texas coast. And then our most famous program is our kayak adventure with youth. Almost 20,000 students have been out exploring the estuaries with us after their eco art workshop since 2003. So the Coastal Heritage Preserve is on Galveston Island. I'm sure most of you know that's a 28-mile-long barrier island made of sand off the Texas coast. Texas has one of the longest barrier island systems in the world. And our preserve is here on West Galveston Bay, and now it extends a 3-mile distance along Stewart Road. What is significant about the preserve and about our island is that in a tiny, narrow band of less than 1.5 miles, you can see a pure marine environment in the front of the island in the Gulf of Mexico with our dunes and beaches. And then along our island would have been what we call a swale. So the island is 5,000 years old, and it has an up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down process whereby as the dunes get older, they move back and new dunes form in front of them. So those sediments coming in from longshore currents from the marine environment form the front of the island. And then in the back, it's formed by sediments from the river. And the rivers form all these marshes. Now you can see this is the developed part of the island, but our island would have had all of these parallel to the Gulf sloughs running across it. And I apologize. So you can still see that in this image. I just wanted people to be able to see all these lines that wherever it's not flattened and leveled and channelized, you have this dune swell complex. On the backs of the larger, more ancient dunes, we have coastal prairies, and then back in here, we have marshes. And where you see sands, this is the backwash from when hurricanes crossed over the islands, which are also vital to how a barrier island forms and grows. So our preserve is 775 acres. It's here. And this is a map of all our transactions along with the land we're trying to save. So I will get more specific with that. This is Tiki Island here. This is the causeway. And we're about a 12-minute drive from 61st Street, if you're familiar with the island. So this is part of the plat of the Marquette Development Corporation. So they purchased a sight unseen, basically. That's kind of a wives' tale, but they purchased 1,075 acres and they paid $36 million for it in 2006. And this map just represents part of the plat that is located between Lafitte's Cove and Spanish Grant. So this is 356 acres here. And then from 11 Mile Road all the way to 8 Mile Road, and the last two dune parcels are platted at this density. So our first encounter with Marquette was with our community trying to fight the platted development of, I think it was over 5,000 units. And in particular, this bay section, this is Setigas Road. It's part of a huge history of birding on West Galveston Island. It's on the Great Texas Birding Classic. And the land that was purchased was a very large ranch and identified in the Galveston Island Greenprint for growth as the gateway to the west end of Galveston Island. It's very beautiful to drive down Stewart Road or 3005 and see all the green space. But in particular of environmental concern was they were going to dredge all this coastal prairie up and channelize it because there's no protections of wetlands. And then they were further going to degrade the slough by connecting this slough that used to run the length of the island. It's already been clogged here at Spanish Grant. They filled it. It runs over here and then back into this area. So some people think that this would be bad to increase this much flow. So we joined our community and tried to fight City Hall and got nowhere. And they approved their very high-end residential plat and development. And then we met with the developer and requested, if at all possible, to save the Bay Tract. And they said, sure, if you can come up with $15 million, you can save the Bay Tract. And Artist Boat agreed to work on that with them. But we did try to find other nonprofits that would be willing to save and hold the land because we're so small. And no other nonprofit wanted to work at this level on the island and didn't think it would be possible to save this place. That was too expensive. So we got started. And then in 2008, this is an image of Hurricane Ike rolled ashore and leveled Bolivar Peninsula and flooded 70% of all structures on Galveston Island. That included UTMB, the post offices, almost every school. It was just unimaginable experience to live through the 8 years of recovery, because unlike Harvey, like in Houston, where your neighborhood might flood, you could drive out and get groceries, you could drive and get your mail, whatever. Galveston was not a whole functioning community for almost 8 years after Hurricane Ike. And Bolivar struggled also to recover from it. And it just was tremendous. And the same week that Ike happened, the economy crashed. And so now their land was not worth what they paid for it. So we were able to convince them to sell it to us for the new fair market value through Yellow Book appraisals. All of this is very technical. I'm not going to bore you with the federal standards for acquisition. But we had been working very hard to raise the profile of the project and worked on that. And the Coastal Impact Assistance Program, which is no longer a program, allocated $3.6 million to Artist Boat to purchase the first 156 acres. So it's not as if the land was not valuable at all. It was still very valuable. So we closed on this 156 acres, and our goal was to save the Bay Tract. And so then we received a Coastal Wetlands Planning Protection and Restoration Act. That's a $1.36 million project. And we had to have the $300,000 in match to save that. So we did raise some money, and then we placed a conservation easement over Moore's Island, which you can't see in this image, and saved that parcel. And then we got a $2.6 million grant to save this section and these two small parcels. So in effect, we had saved the Bay Tract, which was the initial goal. And we were very excited about that. But we decided not to stop because the most important thing that we can do, meaning you, me, all humans on this planet today, to stave off climate change and the mass extinction underway, is to save places that exist now as they are functioning and keep them and restore them as possible. It is the biggest bang for our buck. We don't have to invent any technology. We don't have to create new wetlands. We don't have to create prairies. We can just save places now. So since this time, we've done 12 more transactions totaling 14 million in value. And we have 3 transactions underway valued at 4.2 million. These habitats, again, are very important because here are the old relic sloughs. This would be the back of a dune. This would have been the beach. These are freshwater wetlands running through here. So on a barrier island, it's very hard to have fresh water. But remember, you can go from a marine environment on the beach, dunes, prairies, freshwater marshes, saltwater marshes and slough, then these really fabulous mud flats and saltwater marsh. And so in a narrow band, you have exceptionally high biodiversity. We have more biodiversity running across the island than all of Harris County combined has. It's just incredible and very valuable for wildlife. So this map is showing you all the different transactions that we've done, the ones underway, and what is remaining. So just quickly, this was that first parcel that was 156 acres. Then the second one I described, and the third one. Then Marquette had to initiate its permit because they had to have the land permitted to sell it to developers. So they deeded us 218 acres. That's this kind of blue colored shape that runs down Stewart Road. So we took that from them and a stewardship fund. And so that's when we crossed the road. I like that because, you know, why does the chicken cross the road? Why did Artist Boat cross the road? Well, because we could, and it was important. So we took their mitigation, and then this parcel was purchased with some remaining coastal impact assistance program funds that no organization had used. And they called us and said, can you close in 60 days? And we said yes. And so we were able to protect the rest of the slough that runs here and used to run into our property. Now it just runs into this canal. But we wanted to protect the slough. It's very beautiful. If you drive down Stewart Road, you cross a public WPA bridge there. It's just fabulous. So we purchased that. And then there was another development, and it is over here in this crazy, wacky shape, owned by a developer, Anchor Bay. And they also experienced that economic crash, the inability to sell land, and their permits expired and weren't really renewable the way that they had applied for them. So we were approached by them that why couldn't we buy land with them like we had been for Marquette? And this canal that runs into Spanish Grant, we have a kayak pavilion now. So all of our students go out of this canal and back into this restored marsh, back around Moore's Island. And so this is 2.5 miles long of unbulkheaded shoreline. So these bulkheaded shorelines prevent habitats from migrating during sea level rise. So we're very aware that sea level rise is occurring and that we're losing land. But if the water rises into an ecosystem that's not hardened, then the marsh can migrate. The prairie will get smaller, but you keep the system evolving naturally and you conserve habitat. So we said yes. So we had a QIPR grant, a Coastal Wetlands Planning Protection and Restoration Act for this piece and bought the 75 acres. And that was great. And then we applied for another application and we just closed on this little piece in July. This white shape is 141 acres and they will give us 2 years to save this last 141 acres, and they would like $6.5 million. If we cannot purchase it, they've requested that we become the permittee for their mitigation, and they would like to put 50 houses on this peninsula. Now, I realize it's covered in this white color, but it's a elevated peninsula. It's fabulous habitat for neotropic migrants. There's a great opportunity to restore small pocket prairies and have oak mott's on the property also. But the primary thing is that imagine that these little spines of houses and boathouses and piers all jut into this canal. Our students that come from as far away as the Woodlands, Bolivar, Winnie, Beaumont, and all over Houston and Galveston would then be paddling along that bulkheaded shoreline. Right now it's marsh on both sides. And it would interrupt our goal to have a 2.5 mile of unbulkheaded shoreline. We also have received 3 grants, each $1 million for these 3 parcels. Now, every time we receive $1 million grant through U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we have to raise $350,000 in matching land. So you can see this represents 1 million, a little over. We know that this is 6.5 million, so that's 7.5 million. These are the last 2 open beach parcels remaining on Galveston Island, other than the far west end, San Luis Pass, which is the total wild, wild west. And inside this parcel that runs between Stewart Road and 3005 is considered the core of the island. It is filled with freshwater wetlands. So wherever you see the colors get darker, that's freshwater wetlands, basically situated in the middle of coastal prairie. This is a huge prairie complex with wetlands. All total, prior to the big purchasing boom that we're undergoing now, we estimated that all of this would cost about $36 million. So we've purchased quite a bit. We're over halfway there. And people ask, what's next? So this map removes all the different parcels that we've closed on. I apologize, it doesn't have this last Anchor Bay piece we bought. But we have mostly saved the land in partnership with developers who every time we apply for a grant, give us a willing seller letter that yes, if they get $1 million or 2 million or whatever the amount is, we'll sell them X number of acres for that price. Then we have to get a yellow book appraisal, which is a different way of doing an appraisal. It's a federal standard. That has to be reviewed. The survey has to exactly match in the number of acres to the dollar value. So it takes a long time. And then the federal agency has to review these things. The state agency has to review all the due diligence. And we have to come to the table now every time with $350,000 per $1 million. This is the main way we're getting funding, is through coastal wetlands planning and protection restoration grants, because it's so wet. We would like to get more larger federal grants or BP oil spill grants through the natural resources damage assessment or other funding streams. And we need to raise more money to match those larger grants. And then foundations have said, well, you don't have a lot of public help, not meaning public grants. They mean public, like members of our community aren't giving very much because most of our funding has been through federal sources. So this March, we launched a program called Be One in a Million. And I'm sorry, I'm not ready for that yet. So we're trying to get 1 million people to donate $10 to protect the Galveston Island ecosystem. And we will raise another $10 million to match that. And in 2 years, we hope to be done with this project, because we really want to educate people. We want to get them outside, and we want to build our center and have a place that's nationally recognized for experiential and place-based learning. We have to teach people K through gray how to save the planet and how to save our coastal systems first, because we are the front line of defenses for sea level rise. So I'm going to show you a video. It's much better than anything I can say to you. Hopefully it's going to work. Well, okay. What we can do instead. Oh, I tested this like 500 times from my office. So what I'm going to do is escape. I have no idea what the difference would be here. And I'm just going to go to our website. Any of you can visit our website and learn more about us, of course. So I'm not going to the website to teach you how to get there. I apologize. I want to show you this video.
Welcome to the Coastal Heritage Preserve. I'm Karla Klay. 17 years ago, 2 friends and I started the Artist Boat to provide inspiration and education through unique coastal experiences. Since that time, thousands of youth have learned to steward our coast through art, sciences, and kayak exploration. 12 years ago, we saw our beaches, our prairies, our wetlands, our dunes threatened by sprawling development. This development would take away the homes of spoonbills, osprey, and more. We decided that it was enough. The Galveston Island ecosystem and the Texas coast are worth protecting. And so Artist Boat became involved in land conservation. Of marsh grass, every blue heron, every turtle, every individual of every species is 1 in a million. Artist Boat set out over a decade ago to protect these 1 in a million species, from the Galveston Bay edges to the edges of the Gulf of Mexico, to form a bay-to-beach coastal heritage preserve. We have reached the halfway point and conserved 700 acres. We are asking you to be 1 in a million and give $10 to become part of a determined movement to help save 1,400 acres on Galveston Island. The existing and proposed Coastal Heritage Preserve represent a last place of natural significance on Galveston Island. This bay-to-beach preserve is absolutely glorious. The salt marshes and the wetlands, the mudflats and the coastal prairies, and the beaches and the dunes are stunning, hosting homes for the meadowlarks, the piping plovers, the gulls, terns, grebes and their babies, roseate spoonbills, red-tailed hawks, great horned owls, mottled ducks, terrapin turtles, coyotes, fish, shrimps, crabs, and so much more. These are the beings that call the Coastal Heritage Preserve home. Saltwater plants and animals, freshwater plants and animals who like the salinities in between. We have prairie plants and animals, millions of migrating birds, and animals that need all 3 types of ecosystems found here. In a small, narrow band of space, the Barrier Island hosts more biodiversity per square mile than most mainland ecosystems. There are very few contiguous habitats left on Galveston Island that allow one to see the island as it was formed, all within a distance of less than a mile from bay to beach. One can find the Barrier Island the way the Carwancoa Indians and the Spanish explorers found it. Today, Boat owns 700 acres. Over the last 12 years, we've raised $11.5 million to buy half of this precious land. We were lucky to work with 2 willing sellers who, frankly, in the past, didn't have a lot of options. But that has completely changed now. The Galveston real estate market is hot, and we do not have another 12 years to get this job done. These sellers will not wait indefinitely. Our opportunity is now. We have 2 years to purchase the remaining acres. 1 million people can help make sure that this land is protected forever. Think of it, helping us save 1,400 acres from bay to beach, the width of Galveston Island. Your dollars will help purchase land directly. They will be used to match conservation grant dollars, dollar for dollar, and your $10 million in donations will turn into $20 million because we'll be able to unlock other conservation grants focused on land. The land left to save is critical to put together and complete the Coastal Heritage Preserve. Adjacent to the preserve is a distinct and elevated peninsula, along with many acres of wetlands and prairies. If Artist Boat does not purchase the land within 24 months, the willing seller who has agreed to hold this land for sale is going to look elsewhere. Once there are permits and plats in place and the houses and bulkheads and piers are built, the land is gone forever. This piece is critical to protect. If developed, it will take away the pristine nature of the adjacent preserve, which you are looking at now. It would mar the view shed, one of the last open view sheds offering almost a 360-degree view on Galveston Island. 297 acres remain between Stewart Road and 3005, and 103 acres remain open as beach and dune habitat in this 1,400-acre system. There's a 3-mile distance where we have wetlands, coastal prairies, and the last remaining sloughs on the island, and the last remaining dunes without homes behind them. By saving this place, we will protect 2.5 miles of undeveloped wetlands. The 2 proposed developments would have brought 1,600 homes, a hotel, a marina, a golf course, and channelized development. That means that this place would have been gone forever. These developments are still open for development. Artist Boat has a 2-year window to save this place. The Coastal Heritage Preserve is about habitat, about the wetlands, the prairies, the tucked away dunes, and the animals that live in these places. But the Coastal Heritage Preserve is also about having a place for 7 million people who live in the greater Houston region to learn about our island, our native wildlife, and have a place to explore. We cannot just experience nature virtually. We have to smell it, we have to see it, we have to touch it, we have to feel the wind in our face, and sometimes our feet have to get wet. And that's why it's critical to save this place so that Artist Boat can continue to serve people and they can learn, but also so that we can protect the 1 in a million species of plants and animals who live here. That's why when you become 1 in a million, you will be part of something critical and important and be making a difference. Together, we are more powerful. Saving land is complicated and it's not for the faint-hearted. There is power in numbers and we need your power. We are asking 1 million people to donate $10 to save the Galveston Island ecosystem. You can be 1 in a million and donate $10. You can host your own Be 1 in a Million team, or you can share our campaign. Visit our website and learn how you can be 1 in a million. Click the link below to find out how to help.
All right. I'm so sorry. We went to the beginning. I'm almost finished. I really appreciate everybody's patience. So I hope that you will visit our website. I hope that you will share our video we are trying to connect and engage the public in conservation. And as said in the video, you could create a team, you could connect and create donors and more. This is an image of just the different things that happen at the preserve. We have to keep trails mowed and access for children during COVID. Of course, we've had much fewer classes, but in a typical year, 5,000 to 7,000 students now come to the preserve in groups of 25 to explore by kayak and to do habitat restoration. And there's just a few slides about the ecosystems, but I don't think any of my slides can tell a better story than the video, because you guys know more than anyone else how much of the coastal prairie remains, and how important it is for people to touch and learn with plants. We do spend a lot of time removing invasive species. I just love the size of this McCartney rose. So we do have volunteer opportunities, much fewer right now than in the past. We monitor the habitat with transects, and obviously our habitat has grown, and even our video is outdated. It was just made in March, and we have 775 acres now. We have annual big sits to identify birds, bioblitzes. We grow about 12,000 prairie plants annually. We have put in our Kayak Pavilion, our outdoor classroom, and a bird observatory. This is open dawn to dusk every day, and you guys are welcome to come visit it. You've seen birds moving around in the video, so now my little static image seems kind of boring. But you can follow us on Facebook. You can go to our website. You can call our phone number, and we are ready to answer your questions about our preserve and anything that we can do to help you all also. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I hope that I can see some faces and answer questions. Would be so nice.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the way webinar works, you can only see the panelist face. So that's me and Andrew. Andrew could come back. I was wondering, well, two things. One big, well, I'll start with Margaret's question.
Oh, there
She
is
wants
a
to,
chat.
yeah. No, in the Q&A. Margaret wants to,
Yeah.
Margaret wants to know how the Ike Dike will affect Artist Boat's land. Do you know?
Well, there have been many iterations of the Ike Dike. Currently, they have rerouted it not to be on our land. They have a new proposal. I mean, I am adamantly opposed to more concrete on our island or any island. I don't believe that the motivation for the Ike Dike is properly placed. It will never prevent a Harvey or an Allison, like they keep saying. It will protect Houston. All the big flooding events in Houston have been related to rain events from storms, which the Ike Dike can't prevent. It's such a large structure that when the water hits it, it's going to push it down the coast towards Fallets Island and Brazoria County, creating a lot more damage there. And then it'll push it up the coast towards Sabine Pass in Louisiana. And the upper Texas coast is the fastest disappearing place on earth. So I don't believe that we should do more of harming the system. But, you know, whether or not the Ike Dike comes, it could be 20 years from now. Saving the land saves homes of wildlife. So I try to keep the idea that the question right at the moment is, what will we do that is right? And so what we do that is right is to save the land and protect these homes of wildlife. It would be channelized and developed with or without that. I see a question in the chat. Would it have been cheaper to buy land that's not so close to the city of Galveston. The whole island is in the city of Galveston. There's cheaper land all over the planet. What there is not is a bay to beach section of the island left that can be saved, that has this magnitude of ecological diversity. This is the place to save. It's in the heart of the island, and the geohazards in the green print. There's like 10 priorities that this property meets that are very beneficial to not just wildlife, but also humans, for flood mitigation and reducing geohazards, because barrier islands can split in half during storms. And this land is in the geohazard zone.
I have a follow-up to Margaret's question, and that is, have you heard of the Barrier Island proposal by Jim Blackburn in the Speed Center?
Well, I've seen a lot of Jim's proposals. I don't recall this one specifically.
Well, they're talking about using the dredged material because they're going to dredge the ship channel again, and using that to build an island that will be down the center of the bay and provide a public park and habitat.
Well, that sediment belongs to Galveston Island and Bolivar Island. And if they put sediment anywhere, they should put it on Galveston Island and Bolivar and Follets Island. The sediments belong to the island. That's where they were headed. And because of the dredging and the re-navigation of we're in a negative sediment situation because of the Texas City Dike, because of the Houston Ship Channel, and because of the rerouting of the Mississippi River. And so I had not seen this plan, but the sediments that should be keeping our island growing are stolen by the Mississippi River. Is re-navigated. All the sediments go right off the continental shelf. Because of the way we've altered Galveston Bay tremendously, we don't get sediments to the backside of the island. So I would be opposed to Jim Blackburn's plan too.
Okay.
We're in a desperate need for sediments. And you have to remember, 8 million people are visiting Galveston Island. 50% of all Houstonians visit Galveston Island every year. We are part of the Houston community. There doesn't need to be an island in the middle of the bay. We need to save the island we have, that everybody already comes to.
Okay, I'll go ahead and continue asking. Tamara wants to know how much of your 2-year window is left.
Oh, well, really all of it is left. Our willing seller, the Anchor Bay seller, we're still working on the agreement. And so the technical clock doesn't start ticking until we sign that. We think we'll sign it in November, but these things just take a long time to work out. So in March, we thought we would be 2 weeks away from signing it, and then COVID heated up, and everybody's so busy and overwhelmed right now. So, but since that time, we've gotten 3 $1 million federal grants that I showed y'all in the photo, and we've closed on 75 acres. So we're moving as fast as we can. Watching the video, I'm like, oh my gosh, all these maps, everything I'm saying is out of date already, which is exciting. So we have raised about, I think right now about $250,000. And then last week for National Estuaries Week, we raised $47,000 in 1 week with a matching challenge. But there's plenty of time to give, but the sooner people give, the sooner we buy land.
Okay.
Let's see.
So what is the best way to get to the Coastal Heritage Preserve?
So the best way, if you come from, well, most probably everybody, I don't know, is everybody from Houston in the conference? They could be from anywhere, probably.
Yeah. Most are though. Yeah.
So if you come down 61st Street, I tell people the best way is to come down Stewart Road. And then on the corner of Stewart Road and Setigast Road is where our bird observatory is. That is open 7 days a week, dawn to dusk. There is a very beautiful place to sit. There's 1.5 miles of trails. The rest of the preserve, if you want to see it, you have to be a part of a facilitated program. And so that's either through the school groups we serve for free, or on the weekends, we have a public kayak adventure. And so you would paddle out of that canal. And then if you're part of a volunteer group, also you could come see the preserve to do service. Those volunteer groups the last 18 months have varied from 1 person to 5 people. So they're not very big groups right now. And then at the corner of Settigast and 11 Mile Road is not land we own, it's owned by the city, but there's a public kayak access point there that's free to use. Many people I meet have used it.
Sounds like the best way is to volunteer.
Yeah, well, the best way is our kayak adventure, to go with an artist and biologist. It's fabulous.
Cool. Okay, Natalie has not a question, but a compliment. The Artist Boats NOAA Planet Stewards professional development was incredible this past summer. Cannot say enough praise for Carissa and the Preserve. Go Team Spoonbills.
So the Spoonbills are Carissa, our education coordinators. That's her fundraising team. So if any of you give tonight, go give to Carissa's team. She'll be blown away by that. And then every year we do have professional development, usually in the summer. Usually it's in person, but as Natalie knows, it was asynchronous and synchronous, 36 hours of professional development. So I'm glad people participate in that.
Do you host parties there?
We are working on that. We are having Float the Boat, our annual fundraiser, November 12th and 13th and 19th and 20th. So you can get tickets to that. And we have met with a few parties that would help us facilitate an event like she's talking about. So I think the best thing would be to call our office and talk to me. And we weren't thinking of donations, that if people want to have well, I'm not sure I understand. Maybe she's thinking of hosting an event for people to make donations to save land. So that's a bit different, but we're also trying to figure out how we could have a small wedding or something like that. We had a memorial this year, dedication of life, and about 60 people came, and it was just perfect for them. And they paid to host it there, and made also made a big donation. But it was a wonderful event, and people learned a lot more about the prairie at the party than I thought would have been possible.
You have another compliment about your fantastic presentation.
Oh, thank you. I can't see any faces.
Yeah. Ursula wants you to explain more about land loss on the upper Texas coast, faster than anywhere in the world.
Okay, so the upper Texas coast is on the Chenier Plain. It includes the Chenier Plain includes the boot of Louisiana. So that is one of the largest saltwater marsh systems on Earth. And the Mississippi River, as you know, is one of the largest rivers on Earth, and it is fed. Its watershed is 33 states. So you have to imagine all these sediments are coming off of the land from Canada, Iowa. I grew up in the Florida Keys, so sometimes I'm not the best geographer, but all of those sediments are pouring into the Mississippi, and the Mississippi wasn't originally a navigated river for shipping. So it's one of the largest shipping lanes on Earth also. So those sediments would come down and feed and built that entire boot of Louisiana. And just because we're Texas, we have a border. We were part of that Chenier Plain and that big marsh system. And those sediments would come into the longshore currents along the boot of Louisiana and build Sabine Pass. The island that is, now between Bolivar and Sabine Pass, Bolivar Peninsula, Galveston Island, Follett's Island, and Matagorda Island. When you get to the central Texas coast, from what I understand from geologists, it works a little bit differently, and you have other rivers coming in there. When they re-navigated, which is silly, they didn't re-navigate the Mississippi River. They navigated the Mississippi River and dredged it and straightened it so we can have these huge barges carrying goods up and down the Mississippi River. If you have sneakers on or just about anything, it came on a ship or came on a barge, or chemicals or food, whatever. That goes straight off the continental shelf because that was just the cheapest way the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers could dredge the Mississippi River and straighten it out. They didn't consider that they would be stealing sediments from the boot of Louisiana and the upper Texas coast. So if you read the Intergovernmental Panel by the UN, which I'm sure nobody wants to read, they have mentioned multiple times that it's the fastest disappearing land. One of the fastest disappearing places in the world is the boot of Louisiana. They lose a football field of land. I can't remember if it's every day or every hour. And we are part of that system. So when the longshore currents can't bring those sediments, we're in a negative sediment system on the front side of the island. So is Bolivar, and so is Sabine Pass. So I'm not from here, but people tell me you used to be able to drive from Bolivar to Sabine, but that road just disappeared, and the Gulf is going into that marsh in that part of Texas. So in Galveston, we don't get sediments that we're supposed to on the front side of the island. And then because of the Houston Ship Channel and the Texas City Dike, the sediments shoal into the ship channel instead of coming to the backside of our island or Bolivar. Also, the Texas City Dike blocks sediments and blocks freshwater inflow to West Bay. So those sediments that come down from the Trinity River and the San Jacinto River would be feeding the back marshes of Smith Point, parts of Houston that are no longer marshes, and the back of Galveston Island and the back of Bolivar. So those sediments exist that could feed the back of the island. And I'm so disappointed right now to learn that Jim Blackburn would like them for an island in the middle of the bay. Like, we need to save the island that we all have and love. So I'm trying to think of a good book to refer you to. I'll have to look in my library. Maybe I could send that to Linda or Andrew. One of the Rice professors did a great book on the geology of the upper Texas coast. I just can't remember. Dr. Anderson, I think is his name, has a fabulous, very well written book for a lay reader. You don't have to be a geologist to understand it. So I hope I've answered that. Yeah, and so Virginia's talking about the loss of these natural beaches in LaPorte and Seabrook, and that is also because of the ship channel shoaling in. And when they dredge it, the cheapest cost is to take it off the continental shelf. If you want to keep the sediments, you have to pay the incremental difference. So Galveston is finally in that loop, and we've had 3 beach renourishments in the last 10 years. But for years, nobody here knew how to even get in that loop.
And you're saying the sediment that washes down the Mississippi, because excessive amounts of our topsoil are washing down the Mississippi. They're going just to waste out in the, off the shelf. Wow.
So,
and I know nutria are part of the problem in Louisiana, but I understand we don't have much of a problem here.
Yeah, and I don't think so too much anymore, because the gator population is very healthy now. But the nutria rats are not the reason for the loss of marshes. Primarily, it's been happening since they started running barges up and down the ship channel.
Yeah,
up and down the Mississippi River.
Shannon wants to know if you've thought about adding a GoFundMe, which I think you do.
Well, we went with a program run by Kindful. So basically, our webpage is a GoFundMe site. GoFundMe is also driven by peer-to-peer awareness. So It just is more static, and we really wanted to be able to have teams and build that peer-to-peer network. So we decided to go with this system from Kindful. But our YouTube link is shareable. And then of course, the page is shareable, but it's basically a GoFundMe. It's just a different name.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
have shared it to our Facebook page.
thank you, Linda.
Yeah.
And then how much time do we have left?
I don't know. It's 8:03, so I think we're okay. It's up to you. I wanted to know if those otters you mentioned are sea otters.
Oh, no, we don't have sea otters in the Gulf of
Okay.
Mexico. We have river otters. Well, we don't have river otters in the Gulf of Mexico. We have river otters in our rivers, and they are quite amenable to bays and marshes. And I have not seen the otters. Other people saw the otters, and 2 people saw baby otters. So I'm very upset that I think I deserve to see the otters more than people.
Yeah.
So
We've had a few. I used to volunteer at the Wildlife Center of Texas, and we had a few. They were a lot of fun.
yeah, they're so cute.
Mark wants to know if kayaks are available, I believe.
So we're not an outfitter. We provide educational programs. So if you come on an eco art kayak adventure, we provide paddles, PFDs, kayaks. We even teach paddling. And even though people have paddled a long time, many people have told me, oh, I became a better paddler because we teach people how to paddle a tandem kayak better. Susan's asking, do we participate in the Christmas bird count? We have not participated as a site in the Christmas bird count. We have all, as employees and naturalists, participate in the Galveston Island bird count. But if anybody wanted to include our site, we would be happy to do it across our site. I can keep going if you want, Linda, to try to finish. There's just 4 more questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too many.
When will the next Bioblitz be? I'm not sure when we'll have our next Bioblitz. If you want to participate in our Bioblitz or our big sit, please email habitat@artistboat.org. And that's Greg Hall's email. And just tell him you were on this presentation and that you want to be notified and want to participate in the Bioblitz. We alternate between fall and spring, but because of COVID, we have not done it in a year. But we were just talking about the other day. In the big sit, we usually do the 3rd week of April on a Saturday or Sunday. So if anybody wants to participate, please let us know. Does the Intercoastal Waterway also have? Yes, of course, because the Intercoastal Waterway is also continuously dredged, and the barge traffic creates a lot of wave energy that has dramatically eroded the Anahuac National Wildlife Refuge. Our shipping lanes, there used to be 21 islands that went from Smith Point across the bay. There's only 1 left. I'm told that was impacted by shipping. There's not a intercoastal waterway up there. And then in the Anahuac Wildlife Refuge, they've done these huge revetment projects and planted marsh behind it to prevent the refuge from eroding further. But I'm sure that's happening all over. You know, it goes from New York to Florida, across Florida, and all the way to Brownsville. I mean, humans, we are quite good at changing things. Oh, John Anderson, thank you, Katie, for people asking about a good book on the Upper Texas coast and geology. Dr. Anderson is just, it's a fabulous book. You just, I'm on the website flipping through the B1 in a million pictures, but I don't see where I can actually donate. There should be little square buttons that say find a team, donate. You might have gone too far down the page. Never mind, I found it.
Yeah. Is it handicap accessible? Your bird observatory?
Yes. So we have an ADA parking spot that is right next to the ramp and it's the proper width. And then there's a 150-foot boardwalk that enters the observatory. You can't get into both levels of the observatory, but you can have a great view. Unfortunately, our portalette is not ADA accessible. I'm trying to find grants to fund things like that. And we're very small. So between, land acquisition grants and other grants, I just don't ever seem to raise enough money as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The
So-
Core Woods has nice otters and Jamaica Beach. And then the other place I have seen them multiple times is at Smith Point on the other side of the bay. But, oh, and I saw them once. The otters used to live underneath the shrimp docks at Pier 19, and they would go play in the dories by the Alyssa. But I never saw any baby otters.
Mm.
But all of this is just to see wildlife, of course.
Okay. All right. I guess that's all the questions for you. A lot of people are asking about recordings, and they will be on our YouTube channel. We are kind of disappointed about some things with the Talamy recording, and I was hoping our video editor might improve them a little, but we haven't gotten that done yet. But I will go ahead and share the link to everyone with that. And then we also have the slides for Karla's talk and for Dr. Talamy's talk, and those will be available too. I'll send out the link by Thursday. Okay.
Thank you, Linda, and everyone who attended the meeting. It's an honor to share your time.
Yeah. Thank you so
Karla.
much.
Thank you.
I guess come back Thursday to hear Mark will tell us about the native plants of our Gulf Coast region that will be in our plant sale. Use the same link.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Most people gone, people are going. Thanks everyone for your thank yous. We appreciate it.